Crowds celebrating, hugging, cheering, and most of them aren't wearing face masks. This is what the rest of the world is watching as the Qatar World Cup beams into millions of homes. But in China, they're seeing a slightly different picture. Instead of those close-up shots of fans without masks, they're seeing pictures like these. So why is this happening? Well, let's try and explain. It's all to do with COVID and the control China's government has over its population. Over the last few days, there have been large protests in China. People are very angry because much of the country is still in lockdown. Millions are living with strict rules to limit the spread of coronavirus, and in parts of the country, schools are still closed, offices shut, and people have to stay home. As the rest of the world opens up again and returns to normal, critics of the Chinese government say they've had enough. Now let's pause for a minute and rewind to 3 years ago when COVID began. Coronavirus was first detected in a place called Wuhan, a large city in China, back in 2019. China was the first country to have lockdowns, stopping people from leaving their homes. But unlike the UK, these restrictions have been much tougher and have stayed in place much longer. And that's why we're seeing these protests. The Chinese government strictly controls what information people can get. And every day, people in China are being told the government has handled COVID better than anywhere else in the world. But now the Chinese government has a bit of a problem. Many old people haven't been vaccinated, so they're at risk. And the Chinese government is worried not only about people's health, but also what will happen if people realise that it's got some things wrong in the way it's handled coronavirus. That's why thousands took to the streets for days demanding an end to COVID lockdowns, with some even calling for China's president to stand down, something that hardly ever happens publicly. Protests in China are rare because the government has harsh punishments against anyone who speaks out. But these protests are the biggest China has seen for many years, and some people are asking questions not just about COVID, but the whole way China is run.